Hello and welcome back to the Anfield Edition podcast. My name is Owen and joining me today we have Ty, so say hello Ty.
Hello all.
And we have a new signing with us, of course. We have Invertability, otherwise known as Inverta, so say hello mate.
Hello everyone.
These podcasts are released twice a week, so keep your eyes peeled on Twitter at Anfield Edition to be notified when these go live. Today we'll be discussing the threat that Crystal Palace pose, the Coutinho situation, and we're just over 2 weeks till the window shuts. Will there be any late signings to shout about? So let's get started. Now, on to Palace. They've been a bit of a bogey team for us in recent years. We've lost four of our last Premier League meetings with the side. The last encounter with them saw Benteke still the limelight with a brace at Anfield. The ex-Reds man will be Palace's greatest threat, surely, Ty.
Yeah, like you said, mate, just touched on it there, didn't you? We haven't had the best record against Palace lately. Just looking up, actually, before this, and I've seen that Benteke scored 6 goals in 7 games against us in the Premier League.
Bloody hell.
Including the 2 that you just mentioned there against us at their place last year.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, can't wait to see Lovren being manhandled by him all afternoon.
Yeah, because that's obviously when he was back for Aston Villa, that was one of the main reasons we signed him, wasn't it? When he was scoring those goals against us. I think we got 4 against us within one season, so that'll be...
That's why I was looking forward to having him with us, because every time he played against us, so just strong, powerful, held the ball up well, brought others into play, and obviously always scored against us as well. But we've seen what he can do. So I think Lovren and Matip will have to be on their A game. I think.
Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, and also I don't really think a Liverpool team who can accommodate for a striker like that because of the quality we have elsewhere on the pitch. But a side like Crystal Palace can make sure that every attack goes through Benteke and just feed them crosses all game, which is why all these lower table sides can really capitalise on that, and it is a weakness for us. So
yeah, 100%. I think
yeah.
We might be a little bit lucky with the fact that the guys are hard out injured, haven't they, at the moment? I think he got injured for about a month after their last game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely.
And obviously he puts in plenty of crosses for the likes of Benteke. So I think that means, saying that though, that means Andros Townsend will come in, and I think he can be just as effective on his day. He's got a great left foot on him.
Yeah, but Palace played in a 3-4-2 formation in the last game with Zaha kind of playing in number 10. So it'll be interesting to see who actually replaces him, because I was looking at the Palace bench and there's no one really worthy to replace a name like Zaha, so I think they'll really miss out with him.
Good.
Yeah, looking obviously Palace with Benteke and Zaha, obviously newly promoted Huddersfield managed to keep both of them quiet. They just drove them 3-0 last Saturday, probably one of the biggest upsets of the week, bar obviously Burnley beating Chelsea, so that was a real shock result to see on the first match day of the season. Confidence will be low in the Palace camp. This is the best time to play them, surely, isn't it, Inverta?
On paper, yes, but we were speaking about this before. Liverpool do have a tendency to lose in these sorts of situations where going into the game it looks like we have a huge psychological advantage. For example, Leicester last season, they just sacked the manager. Craig Shakespeare's coming in, a very unreputable name, let's say, and they beat us 3-0. So I don't think we can rely on that too much, and we should just focus on the game and just sort the tactics out.
Yeah, 100%. I think the advantage that we might have, though, obviously we know De Boer likes to play football, so they're going to want to play out from the back, and with the way that we press, you've got the likes of the energy that they're with Mane, Salah, Firmino. If they do try and play that way, I think they will find themselves in trouble.
Yeah, exactly. The players have sort of failed to acclimatise to De Boer's possession-based football, haven't they? And even if it's not going to pay off at Anfield for one, because they are away from home, they're not going to be able to dominate possession in the same way they did at Selhurst Park. I think they had about 60% against Huddersfield, still lost 3-0. Looking at the Hoffenheim game earlier this week for us, we had 37% possession, managed to pull off a 2-1 win. Do you see Palace getting any sort of foothold on this game? I mean, it is obviously on paper. We can reel out all these stats and all these figures and say, Palace are really going to struggle here. But, they can always use their physicality, can't they, to get a real grasp on the game. And they probably will try that on Saturday. So what do you think, Inverta?
Well, yeah, a few things about this, actually. I mentioned in the Huddersfield game, the Huddersfield striker called Mooney. He stands at 6'3", and that's all something that Liverpool don't have. We don't have tall forwards. We've got Firmino, who stands at around 5'11", let's say. Then we've got Salah and Mane, who, with all due respect to fantastic on the ball, so on. But aerially, we can't really rely on them too much. And looking back at the Hoffenheim game, Liverpool, again, were very weak in the air. And there was a few chances where Vogt, for example, had an open header. And what worried me quite a lot, actually, was Kramaric in the 93rd minute. Hoffenheim win a set piece, and he's just open, no one around him. You know, we're struggling to hold on in the tie, and then we've just got him open, which really isn't good. But despite De Boer being a possession-minded manager, looking at his midfield of Puncheon, Miljevic, Loftus-Cheek, and formerly Zaha, who's injured, and as we said, they can't really replace him adequately. So that'll be interesting to see who comes in there. They don't really have the quality to dominate a team like Liverpool. So Liverpool will have more possession, but I think it will only be marginal. So the two things, sort of between De Boer's philosophy and Liverpool's midfield looking almost lethargic, especially against Hoffenheim. You know, with Lallana's absence, that's something that will definitely hit us hard. But I also don't see the front three letting us down. So ultimately, it will come down to Henderson in that DM role and Liverpool's overall defensive composure. And as you said that one before, they'll be trying to play it out from the back. We'll press them potentially. They'll make a few errors, and hopefully the front three will capitalise.
Yeah, definite main thing to pick out between Hoffenheim and Palace, both playing the three at the back formation, with our front three, and the fact we've got those multiple angles of attack. That's definitely going to be something that could sway it in our favour, and I think the pace out wide as well is very important. All of the Huddersfield goals came from a winger running down, there was crosses obviously for the corners, but it was pace out wide that really damaged Palace, and I think that could be seen again at the weekend. So what do you think with Salah and obviously Mane being how they were against Watford? Could you see a repeat of that, Ty?
100%, mate. Like I said, you hit the nail on the head there, and they got hurt badly by crosses and pace against Huddersfield, and obviously we supply that probably 10 times more so with the likes of Salah and Mane out wide there. So I think if they're playing quite open at the back, then they're in for a horrible afternoon. Fingers crossed.
Right, so finally, let's get a prediction from both of you. It's worth noting Ty was spot on last time with a 2-1 win against Hoffenheim. I feel like I should set up a league table of some sorts where you get a point if you get a correct prediction. So, I mean, Ty, you can take first place pretty much now.
Yeah, take that, mate. Get those points on the board for me nice and early. Cheers.
Right, so Ty, first of all, what are you saying for the Palace game?
I'll go 3-1. I reckon Benteke will score a penalty, probably when Lovren ends up rugby tackling him. But I think we'll stick another 3 goals in.
Yeah, Inverta, what about you, mate?
I'll go for 90 minutes of absolutely scintillating football and a 4-2 win for Liverpool.
Bloody hell, I'd love that. That'd be a brilliant game to watch, wouldn't it, a 4-2?
It would be, but
yeah.
It's something that seems predictable on paper again with the defence and defensive errors, especially Moreno, Lovren, and defence.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, the front three definitely won't be letting us down, I don't think. Yeah. So I think the goals will ultimately comes down to defence.
Go on then, though. What are you going for?
I was gonna say, Ty, you learnt on the first podcast we never predicted a clean sheet when it comes to Liverpool. So I'm definitely not going with that. Benteke is going to get on the score sheet again, I feel like. I'm going with the same as you, actually, a 3-1 win. I think Salah and Mane are going to be back at it again. They're going to be the mainstay for our goals. Mane hat-trick is what I reckon he could do it.
Bold.
We've yet to see it.
I'll be captaining him on fancy football.
We've yet to see it. He did it for Southampton. It wasn't against Palace. It was against, who was it? He's one of the relegated teams now, but he scored the fastest Premier League hat-trick in history. That's always a good one for a pub quiz, but yeah. I could see Mane really just setting it alight again. Let's move on now from the Palace game. Of course, Spain are continuing to write, obviously, about Coutinho. With rumours of a strike over the deal not being put through, sort of contrasting with reports of a deal already being in replace. Do we think that the third bid, we all know it's inevitable, but should we accept at a certain price?
Personally, I don't think we should accept any Coutinho offer.
No, definitely not.
The main reason for that is there's genuinely no realistic replacements. There's names like Isco, Vidal, Verratti, Asensio, whatever. But for them, for everyone, it's a career step down, really, isn't it? Moving from the likes of Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, Paris Saint-Germain to Liverpool. But one name I'd like to highlight is Draxler, and allegedly him being out of favour. At the moment, there's absolutely nothing to suggest that we are interested in him, other than Klopp wanting to sign him in January, and then with that comes his refusal to sign for us and him allegedly picking the money. And that if that is true, but there's nothing to suggest that it is, Klopp will certainly not want him back.
Yeah, I second that. I think just what Inverta said there, I think it's too late in the window now. It'll end up being a panic buy. And obviously, if we do cash in on Coutinho, obviously every single club out there is going to be aware that we've got the extra cash available. Just as I said, then they'll hold us to ransom. We've done it before when we threw 35 million on Andy Carroll, didn't we? So, yeah. Shouldn't accept any money for him now. Too late. Maybe if it is happening on in the window, still would have been kind of 50-50, but you would at least have had adequate amount of time to try and get someone in with a decent amount of ability to replace him.
Yeah.
I also think it's important to talk about Coutinho's stance on the situation. For example, if he's going out saying, I'm not playing for this club ever again, I'll sit on the bench all season, I'll miss out on the World Cup squad, well then certainly don't want someone like that in the squad.
100%.
Because then that just decreases the whole team morale.
Do you actually believe that though? Do you actually think he would actually come out with something like that?
First of all, I think he surprised me with the whole situation. Weren't expecting him to leave, especially not in this manner, where 2 days before the Champions League game qualifier, he's coming out saying, I don't want to play for the club or whatever, transfer request. And whether all these extreme comments that are allegedly coming out are true, at the end of the day, we know that he put in a transfer request 2 days before, I think it was actually the first Premier League game.
Yeah.
So that's quite surprising, which is why I'm then led to possibly believe in all this new news that's coming out.
Yeah, certainly an interesting one. I actually have an opposing view to you, so I think he probably is replaceable. I think as a player he is, but I do sort of agree on your stance that it is too late now. There was obviously that really interesting debate, I think, in the week where Premier League clubs voted, didn't they, to have the transfer window end before our season started, just so we'd all have a level playing field going into it. What I know it's a bit of a surprise question, but what was your stance on that when you first heard about that?
Well, first of all, it doesn't give an even playing field because it doesn't apply to the teams in Europe. So there's nothing stopping from Barcelona still coming in and taking Coutinho. It only applies to our English clubs and bringing players in before our deadline. So it's absolutely pointless unless the whole of Europe, Spain, Germany, all the big leagues do that as well. Then it's pointless, isn't it? Because we're still at risk. They're just these English clubs at risk.
A viable option. I do think that all the leagues, all the top 5 European leagues, even maybe every league in Europe, but have to start on the same day. Otherwise, it's unfair if you can sign players until X day, but after X day, someone else can still buy your players, and then you're actually at a huge disadvantage, more so than you were initially. Say we were to lose Coutinho, then we can't even replace him with an average player, let's say.
And I think trying to agree a transfer sanction for all the European leagues would be about as difficult as Brexit at this point. So I don't think that's going to happen. But, good players come and go. We've seen it over the years in Liverpool, but we always struggle to directly replace. Should, say, for example, you had to go and pluck out one name that would be a direct replacement for Coutinho, who would you pick?
We're being realistic here. So someone who we could actually sign, or in an ideal situation. Yeah,
I mean, it depends what ideal is, and it depends what realistic is. I mean, personally, I'd go Asensio, but
the two obvious ones, you just said one there. Two obvious ones would be Isco and Asensio. But if you had told me a year ago, I think Isco would have been realistic because, both of them actually, because Isco was closely linked with Tottenham, wasn't he? I think he was close to a move to Tottenham. Yeah. Now that towards the end of last season he started playing in the Real Madrid first team and obviously started the Champions League final as well, and added to that, Asensio was barely playing as well. We just knew that he was a good player, bags of potential, and now he's come in and scored on his debut at every single bloody cup competition he's been in, including the other night as well, and the Champions League final obviously last season. So I think we've
he's
seen.
Actually scored 3 Clasico goals now.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, exactly.
In the past 2 weeks, that is alone.
And there's been reported about the release clauses as well, haven't they? Isco's had a stupid one put in of 700 million, and there's rumours now of Asensio having a release clause of 350 million as well. So, Good luck with
Yeah,
those
but
ones.
it's important to note that Real Madrid are not a selling team.
No.
They don't have to sell at all. They've probably got the most money for transfers in the world. So even if we done something crazy like offer 200 million for Isco, they'd probably say no because they know he's the future. He's arguably the best attacking midfielder in the world, and he's also 25, 26, and
Yeah.
Madrid are kind of building in the future with the signings of Dani Ceballos, Marcos Llorente, and so on. They get the after a Spanish spine, and I really don't see them selling that at all.
No, unfortunately. What about you, Will? Got any thoughts of who you would directly replace him with?
Asensio would be the dream. I think. God, that goal the other night against Barcelona. I could watch that a million times over. I think at this
Absolutely
point.
no fear, is he? He's got no fear whatsoever.
Beautiful finish. It's like you could make an individual montage for him just in the El Clasicos, and he's 21 at this point.
Yeah, 21.
And he's come off that amazing under-21 Euro Championships with Spain, didn't he? Scored a hat-trick in the semi-final. I think that really when Europe stood up and took notice of him, and you'd put him up there with like Mbappe sort of level of wonder kid. So I think at this point, going for a player like that, we know there's going to be a high price tag already attached to them. We've had Mbappe linked to Real Madrid for £170 million, which is ridiculous. Asensio, if he was ever going to move now, given what he's done for for Real Madrid against Barcelona in the last few weeks, you'd see him 150 million plus. It's unrealistic for our club.
They alone put like 50 million on top of his price tag.
Yeah.
Thing is, like you said, I think Inverta touched on it earlier. A lot of these players that we're being linked with would be a backward step for them at the moment, because, like I said, Asensio is now on the verge of first team football in Madrid if he keeps doing what he's doing. Isco has cemented his place in there. So, yeah, we'd struggle bringing those players in anyway at the moment.
Yeah.
And also with Real Madrid, they've only just sold James Rodriguez, so that takes out some depth that they had.
Yeah.
So I even feel as if Mateo Kovacic is off the cards due to that.
Yeah.
Because he's now he can play that DM role as well, in which he played last night against Barcelona.
Yeah. Right.
So I think Real Madrid's a no-go at the moment, especially for midfielders, as they were used to that depth last season, and now that's kind of when, with the exclusion of James Rodriguez and Morata as well in the striker position.
The club
So
that you would
I don't think they're looking to sell.
The club you would say you would probably might have a pick of a few players could be PSG though, because obviously they've spent all this money on Neymar, and we've been linked with quite a few of their players. Draxler, Lucas Moura, for example, there's another winger you could throw into the hat.
Yeah.
We need a little bit of depth. We need a bit more speed, and he's got that in abundance. So I wouldn't mind a cheeky bid for Lucas Moura again. We've been linked with him for about 3 summers.
Yeah.
The problem with Lucas Moura is, does he fit in the team? Personally, I don't think we do need another winger, because last season the problem was we had one fast winger, and then Mane left, and then there was no one else to replace him. But now with Ryan Kent potentially on the bench, being able to come in, and Salah and Mane.
Yeah, you've got to consider what we're in though as well. You've got to consider Champions League football, haven't you? Ryan Kent is all well and good, and I do really, really rate him, but when you look at, if we're in a Champions League group, bear in mind we're in pot 3 and we're up against 2 very, very good teams. If Mane or Salah do get injured, you need someone with equal quality, don't you?
Yeah, a bit of an unexpected question, actually, but what do you guys think of Shea Ojo leaving for Fulham on loan? Because so far, I'd say he's ahead of Ryan Kent in terms of the development curve, but clearly not.
He has played more in the first team for Liverpool, hasn't he? So you would say he was above that. I think he notched up about 8 appearances last season for us in the end.
Yeah, when we were in the Europa League.
Yeah, so I thought he was really going to kick on this season. Given if there was any injuries, I thought he would be the first name to come in to replace Salah or Mane. But obviously that's not the case. I think the Championship experience is very good for him. I think Fulham are on cards for promotion this season. Although they have started the season with 3 draws, which has been disappointing for them, but they're definitely up there as promotion candidates for me. I think it was a bit disappointing of Klopp to let him go, to be honest. I would have liked to seen him sort of kick it on the bench and give us an option.
I think Klopp's made that decision directly based on this pre-season, though, to be fair, because Ryan Kent's come in and he's blown everyone away. Okay, I know it was pre-season and it was a friendly, but against Bayern Munich, when what Kent come on and done straight away against one of the best teams in the world, no fear whatsoever, rinsed their full-back. And he did look dangerous, so I think it is solely based on this pre-season he's made that decision. If he does keep him in the squad.
Yeah, but another factor that might be the case is because Ryan Kent has got the Championship experience now
already,
for Barnsley. Yeah.
And another thing,
maybe
Ojo going to Fulham might be good relations for possibly the Ryan Sessegnon deal later on. Not in this window maybe, but later on.
Yeah, that's also a good point.
Yeah, next year or two.
Yeah, definitely. Ty, you touched on PSG being a good place to go and sell players. No, to buy players. Obviously, they're willing to sell. What do you know, obviously, about the Draxler rumours? We're hearing things that he's out of favour at PSG. He might be, shipped away. We obviously registered interest in Draxler in January. Klopp wanted to sign him. We've got that German connection going. Do you see any sort of way about this deal? Do you think we could pull it off?
I think is a real possibility. Like you said, it wouldn't be a backward step for him because he would be featuring heavily in Liverpool season, being in the challenge. Hopefully, if we were challenging for the league, Champions League as well. It's a funny one. We know what Klopp's like. He come out and said, didn't he, made it pretty clear he only wants players who want to be at Liverpool. And if it is true, and Draxler did turn down Liverpool in January for a big payoff, then I can't see Klopp wanting him, to be honest with you. I'd take him 100%. I'd welcome him with open arms. But I'd love to see him at Liverpool.
Yeah, well, apparently Draxler is hugely out of favour, isn't he? Like, he's been excluded from the squad completely. Unai Emery, the manager, said he doesn't even have a place on the bench. So
He
he's
said
almost,
that, did he?
Yeah, I
didn't see that.
certain to leave the club. So
Bit
it'll
of a
be
weird one.
interesting
I'm
to see
surprised.
where he goes, if anywhere.
I am surprised. We were talking about, when we, before the podcast started, and we said Draxler, he's since he has been there, 10 goals, 3 assists in 25 games. It's not a bad contribution at all for someone competing in a new league.
It's also strange, they've just sold Blaise Matuidi as well. So
Yeah, 18 million to Juventus.
yeah.
It's a steal, isn't it? Absolute
steal. No, but regarding Draxler, if he, like you said, Inverta, if he has no place on the bench for him, you've got to imagine that we'd be able to pick him up for a pretty penny at that point. They would be willing to sell cheaper, you'd imagine, so that would actually be a really good bit of business for us.
Yeah, and it's also interesting because allegedly there's this war chest. We bid 66 million for Keita. We're willing to spend this on a midfielder, and all of a sudden the opportunity arises. So unless Klopp is reluctant to go there because of what happened last January, then that'll be the only reason for us not signing him. But he's a player that we should be going for, and realistically, we should be going for him instead of Keita. If the 66
Does anyone
million
have an idea how much PSG picked him up for?
I think it's
Off the top of their heads.
40 to 50 million range.
The going rate, basically, nowadays. It's crazy.
I'd be willing to check. I would be willing to check that. Oh, here you go, got it. He went for 36 mil.
Oh
my god!
So we could come. I think we could come to pick him up somewhere between 25, 35 mil.
If we did, that would be a real steal, I feel.
If they've bought him for 36 and they've openly come out and said he hasn't got a place on the bench, they can't possibly hope to get 45 million plus for him.
So far, the quoted price has been 45 million euros. But I do think we can knock that down to 30 to 35. Because of the price tag that he went for in the first place.
Liverpool, love knocking down prices, wouldn't they? So
I'd go and pick him up myself if we can get him for that.
Just pop down to Argos, Ty, is that your plan?
Yep. Straight down there, pal.
Right, so Southampton chairman Ralph Kruger has come out all guns blazing this week, commenting that Virgil is not for sale this window, and it's not personal, it's not about him, it's about an overall much, much, much bigger picture, a change of course for Southampton. Using the word much 3 times, does that count Van Dijk out, or does it just stink of PR?
It's an interesting one because from a Southampton point of view, it's similar to us and Coutinho, because Barca kind of went behind our backs, allegedly told Coutinho to kind of cause chaos just before our first Premier League game, and if we had the option, should we sell him to PSG or Barca, we choose PSG. And I think Southampton are in a similar situation with Liverpool and Chelsea. They'd rather sell to Chelsea due to how we acted, but it was reported today that he's still training alone, so I wouldn't discount it completely. I'd say it's still on the cards potentially, but it's looking unlikely for
I don't know what the exact situation is at Southampton, but I'm sure they were aren't they discussing a takeover or someone investing in the club?
Yeah, Chinese investors, I've heard.
Yeah, so what you've got to think about, they've got to come out and say the right things. With new investors coming in, a chairman's hardly going to come out and say, yeah, we're willing to sell our best player, willing to sell our captain and whatever, So I think it's just a case of coming out, saying the right thing publicly. Liverpool have done it plenty of times. Even when we knew players were going to go, they come out publicly and said, Alonso's not for sale. Yeah, Torres is not for sale. Suarez is one for sale, and we know how that ended.
So I think the image ultimately.
Exactly.
Southampton don't want to look weak. Obviously, we've bought the players numerous times.
Spot on. So I might be being a little bit hopeful, but I still think that, like you said, it stinks of PR. So I think he'll end up hopefully still coming in. Probably really late in the window though.
Inverta,
deadline
what do you
day.
think? Do you reckon he'll end up being a Liverpool player as well?
Well, it's still 2 weeks and all that can happen. Personally, I'll say yes, due to the centre-back situation, and surely Klopp and Edwards, the whole financial team at Liverpool, will be able to go all guns blazing for the centre-back who wants to join us. We want him. We need a centre-back. It all makes sense. But then again, makes sense, so Liverpool probably won't do.
I'm liking the optimism though. I'm enjoying the optimism here that we actually think he's going to end up at Liverpool. I mean, I think Southampton will keep hold of him in the end. I genuinely think they're actually going to keep their stance on him. But I'd love him at Liverpool. So I would say yes, but I just don't see us pulling this one off, boys.
Well, hope you're wrong,
not.
Really hope you're wrong.
It will be very awkward for him to come back after all this. All this that's happened. He's training low and he handed in transfer requests, and there's almost no way back. For example, I don't really see a way back for Coutinho, despite wanting him to stay, especially not with a manager like Klopp, who's very stubborn when he.
I think the difference between them though is they both handed in transfer requests, but added to that, Van Dijk come out with a very public statement. They're saying that I felt this was my only choice and blah blah blah. I think come out of Coutinho's camp, we haven't really heard anything directly from him. We know he handed in a transfer request and it was his signature at the end of it. But I think there's a lot of peer pressure from Barcelona, to be honest with you.
Yeah, but one thing that's really sort of disappointed me is us not even bidding for him, because surely that'll unsettle Van Dijk first of all. It'll unsettle Southampton if we go in with a say 60 million bid to start things off.
I don't think we can though, can we? We can't bid for him because that'll bring on obviously because they complained about us and what we've done, our tapping up scandal and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
I think if we actually bidded for him without their consent, then the FA will actually go ahead with the investigation again. And obviously the worst case scenario coming out of that would be a transfer embargo, which obviously we literally couldn't afford now. So I think it might change. Obviously, he's been linked with Man City and Chelsea. Chelsea have been touted about to make a bid soon. I think if Chelsea directly made a bid and we match that bid, I think if Southampton are inviting offers for a player, they've come out and said that he's not for sale. That might alter the picture a little bit, but I don't think we can do that until we get the green light, basically.
Finally, let's answer some questions you've submitted to us on Twitter. @Jurgelution asks, what is Klopp thinking about alternatives and what is the relationship with FSG? Now, Inverta, you have some strong views on FSG, so I'll pitch this one to you. Could you give us some insight into this one, mate?
One thing that almost frustrates me is Klopp's contradictions, and I'm going to refer back to Middlesbrough and what he said after that game. He said that the transfers are almost finalised, there's a few more things to do, and he's also said that he is in charge of everything. He has the final say, whereas now he's been saying that sometimes when the owners decide on something, he sort of has to just take it, and he can't really dispute that, which is obviously the complete opposite of what he allegedly once thought. So for this reason, I do think it's sometimes hard to believe Klopp, as he's almost being dishonest with us. But I also don't think he's a yes man, and obviously behind the scenes a lot happens, but maybe it's just a case of him being too professional to take these disputes to the media. Perhaps he's not willing to go to lengths that Benitez or Conte have went to recently or previously. And
do you think? No, go on, finish off.
Also, maybe it's something about an agreement when they initially employed Klopp, because obviously Ancelotti, there's that quote about him saying Liverpool need a new spine. FSG said no, so he said okay, thanks, I'm not interested in the proposal. So maybe with Klopp there was a case of some media censorship, or that Klopp won't just be able to throw a name at FSG and they'll sign him.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll evaluate the situation, but if they can't, well, unfortunately we can't get him. That's what they'll tell him. Maybe he is frustrated, but ultimately there's not anything he can do if that's in his contract.
Yeah. When he come out and said though that everything's in place, do you think a big part of that could be us securing Champions League football?
No, but what he actually said is that he wanted it to all be sorted before pre-season started.
Okay.
Because I definitely noted that, because I was interested to see whether we would actually deal with all the transfers like we did last window. To be fair, we got our targets nice and early. Then we had the long pre-season, whereas now it's really dragging. But the Champions League might be the factor.
Yeah.
For example, we touched on Arsenal before the podcast started. All their main transfers, Ozil, Sanchez, for example, Xhaka, have all been in like the last week of the window once they've secured Champions League, and the player has the security that he will be playing European football at the highest level.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's something that realistically could be the case with Liverpool. I think that it's all hinging on this qualifier with Hoffenheim. I think if we'd seen us get a much easier draw, maybe we would have seen transfers escalate a bit more as people expect us to win. But Hoffenheim's such a difficult tie for us to have. I think it is holding back a few of our transfers at the moment. Any potential players coming in and want to see us qualify first and have that security there, because we are an in-out side at the moment of the Champions League. We're not a solid top 4 team. We're not like, I was going to bring up like City, Chelsea. Obviously they're off season, but they're always going to be up there and competing for the league. United, even obviously signing Pogba outside of when they had no European football, they managed to do that because there's a faith they will be back in there. With Liverpool, not that same faith is there. We're in and out of the Champions League constantly, 3 times in the last 7 seasons. There's just not that faith there, and that's what could be holding our transfers back.
Although one thing I would say is that Liverpool and Manchester United have got the history in the Champions League, and I feel as if anyone could do it in England, it is Liverpool or Man United, because even though we've only won it once in like the past, say, 20 years in 2005, we've still been getting semi-finals, finals, and so on. We won the equivalent of the Europa League in the 2001-2002 season as well. So we do have this history with Europe. And looking back, even at the Europa League, 2 seasons ago, we beat Dortmund against all the odds. We beat Villarreal. We beat Manchester United. We if anyone can do it, we can beat someone over 2 legs.
100%. We're always one of those teams that on the day, you wouldn't want to play us on the day in a knockout competition. Like you just said it there, Dortmund, odds are against us there. You look at their squad, their first 11, it was 10 times better than ours, and we still managed to produce it on the night. So any kind of like one-off games at Anfield especially, you wouldn't bet against us, would you really?
Yeah, also important to note that we were unbeaten against the top 6 teams. So beating the elites has never been a problem at Liverpool. It's always been the average teams, the relegation teams who are fighting to stay up. That's the problem. Who sort of don't play football, they just defend. Whereas if a team is openly trying to attack us, we've got the firepower to penetrate their defences, regardless of how good they actually are.
100%. I mean, it'd be interesting to see the odds actually when it comes to when we do qualify for the Champions League. I'll say when. I'll be positive. To see if we have better odds than Tottenham, because they're not great. They haven't had a great record, especially at Wembley as well. So we'll see. I'd love to see that.
Another question at Messiah YT asks, how many transfers should we expect until the end of the window? Go ahead, Ty.
Well, obviously everyone knows we need a centre back. We do need another midfielder, and on top of that, I'd put a winger in there as well. So maybe someone with a little bit of versatility. We've said it already. I think if we do qualify for the Champions League next week, that will escalate a few transfers. I'd love to see Draxler come in. If not him, I've seen another name touted about. Don't know how accurate it is, probably not at all, but Insigne as well at Napoli. He's had a brilliant couple of seasons there. So I'd take either one of those 2. And I still think we need like a midfield destroyer as well. I think if Henderson, we know how the trouble he's had with his injuries. I think if someone like him or Chan get injured on top of Lallana now, we'd be in trouble. So still think we missed out on him already, haven't we? Matuidi would have been a great signing. That would have been
brilliant.
Really good signing, and for less than 20 million we said. So I still hope Van Dijk will come in. If not, we definitely need an alternative to that. Regardless of what the reports are, but with Klopp being stubborn and not bringing anyone else in. But yeah, centre back, a winger / attacking midfielder, and I'd like to see maybe a defensive midfield come in as well on top of that.
So 3 for you, Ty, obviously. Inverta, what are you thinking?
Well, still a left back really, but I don't see that happening with Robertson. A centre back, obviously, Van Dijk, hopefully, but there's also potential plan Bs, and I know Klopp has said there is no plan Bs, but for example, Koulibaly, Manolas, even Howard has been a name.
Oh, so recently,
yeah, for 20 million euros. Quite frankly, I don't know what we're waiting for. If Van Dijk is out of the equation completely, we should definitely be after him. He's
injury prone though. Howard is, I heard, injury prone. He's had a fair share of injuries.
Well, yeah, maybe he is, but then again, so is Matip, so is Lovren. So to keep those three happy, maybe that would be for the best.
Howard as on crutches would be better than Clavan though. So
And Lovren.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
and another name I'd like us to go after is Oxlade-Chamberlain. Due to this versatility that Ty talked about, he's someone who's able to play on the wing. He can play in centre mid. That's his favourite position.
That's a great shout,
That's where he wants to
actually.
play. He's played right wing back for Arsenal. His versatility is really as good as it comes, and I've always been a fan of his work rate, his natural ability, his ability to penetrate. He's almost like Sadio Mane, but just not as good, and can also play in
I think
the
he's
midfield roles.
definitely a player Klopp would love, wouldn't he? He'd suit Klopp down to the ground. You know, he's high energy, like you said. He can play in a number of positions. I read somewhere today actually that Chelsea are about to make a bid for him, so I wouldn't be surprised, because obviously he's still standing by the fact that he's not going to sign a new contract.
Yeah,
I
hopefully
know
we
Wenger.
retaliate to that Chelsea bid,
Yeah.
with a bit of our own.
And he's a Liverpool fan as well. I think him and his dad's a Liverpool fan, so hopefully that sways it for us. So I think it all comes down to where he plays, because he's openly come out and said, I know he's versatile, but he has openly come out and said he wants to play centre midfield. So, but with Hendo, we don't know how Hendo's going to be after last season with his injuries. He didn't look, I know it was early days, but he didn't look sharp at all against Hoffenheim. I think it would be a great transfer for him if we can pull it off.
Yeah, then obviously Chan dropping deeper into the DM role.
Yeah.
The midfield of Oxlade-Chamberlain, whoever the partner centre mid will be. That's Wijnaldum, Lallana when he comes back. Maybe even Grujic will start making some appearances this season. Because when I've seen him, I've certainly been impressed, and I'd be a fan of that decision.
Yeah, I agree completely, boys. At Philippus9 asks, why can't Liverpool forgive Sacco and let him play? Because he's definitely better than Lovren. Agreed, mate. I'd love to see Sacco given another game, but I think Klopp's completely just lost trust in him. What are your thoughts, Inverta?
Well, I think it all comes back to Klopp's nature again and how stubborn he is. Obviously, something else has happened. It's impossible for him to just allegedly have been on some form of drug. Then it turns out he hasn't, and Klopp just said, right, that's it for you. You've been accused of drugs, and then you've come out clean, but still you've disgraced the club. No, I don't think that's the case at all. There's got to be something up with his work ethic, or allegedly he's been turning up to train late again.
Yeah.
We don't know. It's really one of them situations that have been kept like behind closed doors. So we can't speak too much about it because we don't understand the situation. Personally,
Not 100%.
I'd probably give him a go, but we don't know.
I liked him, but I think you touched on it there. There were quite a lot of reports that he was quite disruptive. I think it was 2 pre-seasons ago. He was turning up late to when they were having food and meetings, etc., etc. And one of the situations was caught on camera. Do you remember when Klopp was doing an interview?
Yeah, in Arizona prison.
Yeah, and Sarko burst in, didn't he, and interrupted his interview and everything.
Yeah, he didn't look happy at all.
You could visibly see Klopp look really pissed off. So I think one thing probably led to another, and like you said, he lost trust, and he probably just couldn't tolerate his shit anymore.
Yeah, maybe it's just a case of accumulation of little incidents. Yeah. Then the whole drug incident just made him fall. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. In short, do we see Saka in a Liverpool shirt again?
No.
No, not in my opinion. No chance.
That makes me really sad.
Personally, I feel as if it was to happen, it would have already happened, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We would have seen him this pre-season, and I think Owen, you said it before, didn't you? Like the Klopp come out and said we've got 4 centre backs, so that pretty much sealed his fate.
Yeah, we brought up last week. It was Gomez, Klavan, Lovren, and Matip. That were his 4, and he was happy with those. So no, he's not going to play for Liverpool again. I completely agree. It's just I feel like it's such a shame given how good he was in that run up to the Europa League final, obviously against Sevilla. He was so good. Just seeing it sort of fall flat on his face, I feel that if we had him in the final, could have been a completely different story, and would have seen him, still playing for Liverpool, in my opinion. But it's a big shame, and I'm generally quite a big Sacco fan as well, so I'd like to have seen him given at least one more chance. But like you both said, I don't see it happening.
Yeah, sorry, pal. I know that's deeply upsetting for you.
Right, so that's all we have time for today, lads. So where can the listeners find you off of the podcast?
I've got my Anfield Edition handle, which is Ty_talks_LFC, and my personal one is Tyrone_PT.
My Twitter handle is @Invertability, if you want to check me out.
So be sure to give them a follow. Once again, follow at Anfield Edition for updates on when the podcast is released, and to obviously ask us questions that we'll be answering at the end of each podcast. Pleasure talking to you lads, as always. So
Cheers,
say
buddy.
goodbye, Ty.
Try, guys.
And say goodbye, Inverta.
Goodbye, everyone.
And it's bye from me as well.